What's going on YouTube? This is Ask the Root. So I'm going to review the JJ Demon and Captain Midnite EP Splish. This project came out in the spring of 2015, and it's kind of up in the air with me as far as like the next JJ Demon project, because after he dropped Limbo, he kind of went into limbo somewhat, and he didn't resurface until like the spring of 2015. And because there's not an overabundance of information about JJ Demon, I couldn't really find the information as far as knowing what his next project was. He doesn't have like a wiki page and that type of stuff. So from what it said, it seemed like this was the next thing that he did. He took three and a half years off, and then really he did not come back album wise on his own until 2017 Spirit Cooking. So that's kind of the concept. So this is the next one by JJ Demon I'm going to review. He teams up with kind of EDM, kind of nightclub producer Captain Midnite on here. It's kind of something to kind of see as far as that relatively goes. But I would look after it like this album or this EP really has like a particular vibe about it that's pretty much like the sort of stuff that I would want JJ Demon to do a lot more. And that's kind of the stuff about it, just because there's two singles on here. Like I think like JJ Demon, at least on his Funeral Disco album, was kind of Funeral Disco was kind of more East Coast and trying to be more real hip hop sounding, but Live Backwards from 2011 and then Limbo kind of had a lot more kind of fleshed out kind of vibes about it. But I do feel like this project is very party oriented, and I like the concept of just him teaming up with Captain Midnite, just because it results in pretty much some of the most lively songs I've heard from JJ Demon yet. I would have to say I really like this. Now, Live Backwards is probably one of my favorites from JJ Demon, but I did kind of like the kind of Bandcamp and kind of more blog type album of Limbo a lot, but that kind of ditches that sound. It's not quite as thought provoking and more like Casey Veggies and Odd Future and that type of stuff on this album, but it's just kind of underneath the context that this time it just kind of has like these kind of slick rave type numbers that are kind of meant for like a dance club and late night session, but also kind of in kind of a relatively relevant kind of time period. It just kind of feels like, as far as that kind of goes, like you're still getting JJ Demon on like his lyrical vibe. He continues to have like that kind of East Coast 1991 sounding sound, but it's underneath. It's on some productions that kind of have like a nice touch towards it. So that's kind of the thing there. I would have to say it's interesting. So it's just kind of, I mean, about one of the few complaints I would have about this project is just the fact that I kind of feel like it is marketable singles. I do feel like this is probably JJ Demon at his most like commercial in a lot of ways, but I feel like it's kind of like listening to like Corrupt from the Dog Pound. Like I feel like when I think of like Corrupt from the Dog Pound, that's kind of an off the wall example, but Corrupt from the Dog Pound, I feel like Corrupt from the Dog Pound kind of had this problem of just being too lyrical and not knowing how to kind of consolidate it into singles. Like Snoop Dogg had that figured out, but when the Dog Food album dropped by the Dog Pound, I feel like the singles that the Dog Pound kind of dropped were kind of more lyrical than they like needed to be. Kind of Corrupt, I mean, Daz kind of was not as lyrical, but Corrupt kind of is a lyricist, and that's kind of what happens with JJ Demon, or you look after it. Or I feel like the song like Cool, I feel like the song Cool Like a Corpse is really good, and it's the same thing with Smile Tomorrow, but it just was not marketed as much as a single. That's kind of thing. It's lyrical commercial. That's kind of, if you can handle that, if you can handle the fact that it's commercial but it's very lyrical and that sort of concept, that's kind of the thing about it. It's just not a very basic kind of song, which I think JJ Demon probably could have had a little bit more exuberant kind of time if that had happened. But for what it is, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the singles. The first single is Cool Like a Corpse. Pretty cool song title and that type of stuff. This one is definitely like a nice commercial rave type song. It gets crazy, but it aims for the charts. So I really feel like this is a rave song. It really takes the gloves off and really aims right for the raves right at the start. This is not second, third single, just right from the get go. It's kind of a rave type song, and it's commercial at that. I feel like this is a nice one just for like the dance floors and that type of stuff. I like these JJ Demon and kind of rave type numbers. This is the sort of music he needs to make way more. Definitely reminds me of some of the stuff he did on his Live Backwards mixtape. It's not quite as EDM sounding, but definitely more rave induced. Just a nice one overall. Probably one of the best JJ Demon songs I've heard. It's a longer one, but I do like the vibe about it quite a bit. This is definitely one of the more stellar JJ Demon songs I've heard, and just works pretty well for a single. It has a good hook on here by Johnny Craig and that type of stuff. Just would have to say it's just an overall pretty exuberant dance cut. So The second single is Smile Tomorrow, and this one's kind of more pop oriented. This one kind of feels a lot more blue collar, and it's still at the dance club, not quite as rave ready as Cool Like a Corpse, but it definitely is kind of more of like it just has kind of more swamped energy and more bewildered and kind of worn out kind of energy about it. It reminds me of like a song that you would listen to when you're getting ready to go home. This kind of something that Linkin Park would do on one of their electronic albums where they would have the energy of it. It's definitely still a dance club cut, but it just is kind of more like 2:30, 3:30 a.m. type stuff where you're about to leave and that sort of thing, where the energy's starting to kind of dwindle. Where I feel like Cool Like a Corpse is definitely in the pitch of the night and that sort of thing. Smile Tomorrow is kind of more getting ready to leave and that type of stuff. Definitely like the energy behind it. It's just a lot more commercial, almost blue collar, but just kind of more dance oriented, where it's kind of a blend of that. And there is another cat on here, named Kyle Lucas. I think he raps at the end, and it kind of has like some Drake vibes towards the very end of the song. That's interesting to kind of do that. I don't know who did the hook on that song, but it's interesting enough. So that's kind of two good ones. And then out of 5 songs on here, the only other song I recommend to you 3 songs out of 5. So the 3 songs I recommend would be Smile Tomorrow, Cool Like a Corpse, and then Swive, which I don't know if that's how you say that word. I don't know if it's Swiv or Swive, but it's Swive. Haven't really heard that word before, but Swive. So that one is basically a late night cut. This one really feels like another heat of the night type rave type number. Definitely has like a real electronic and synthy kind of energy towards it. It's escaping kind of background dance music kind of cut. JJ Demon does not necessarily put a chorus and a hook in this song. It's just basically a long verse the whole way through, about 3.5 minutes. But it does work as pretty sufficient background dance music. I feel like this one's kind of more background music than the single Cool Like a Corpse, but I definitely feel like it works. Same pitch as Cool Like a Corpse, just kind of more meant for just like zoning out a bit. So that's kind of the concept. So to talk about the 2 songs I didn't enjoy, Here Be Dragons and then Runaway Kids. I feel like Here Be Dragons, I almost liked this song and would have almost given it an almost song, but it was just another one of these ones. JJ Demon sometimes will just make songs that are just verses and not necessarily put a hook on there. And this one's kind of more of like a ruminating song, but I couldn't get into the production of it enough. I kind of felt like it needed to be more of like a song, more so than just like a standard kind of recital and that sort of thing. But I didn't enjoy the kind of pitch of that one. I do like ruminating songs, but this one was just kind of a longer kind of recital. And then Runaway Kids was just kind of more of like a struggle song that I didn't vibe with too much. I mean, it was kind of trying to flesh out the album, but I wonder if there could have been more interesting topics as far as like an album cut that could have worked. Because this just felt like it was supposed to be like a large, massive kind of dance cut kind of album. It just felt like you can tell by the album cover that this was meant for night music, but it just didn't come off the right sort of pitch of energy. But 3/5 of the project I did wind up liking, and it does have some pretty exorbitant energy. Definitely a quality dance cut, and this is JJ Demon on basically some of his pitch and best music I've heard thus far, apart from like Live Backwards, the mixtape. So this is really kind of the thing. This is a nice blend of him with Captain Midnite, I would have to say. So me liking 3 songs out of 5, I'm going to go ahead and give this album or this EP a 6.75 out of 10. Pretty rock solid. Definitely some good stuff on here. It's definitely worthwhile and checking out and seeking to if you haven't heard of this or don't know a lot about JJ Demon or Captain Midnite. It's definitely worth seeking out. And the social score I will give like a 7.5 out of 10 because it does have some quality on here. Minus just like the 2 songs that are not really dance oriented. This has some really festive kind of crazy kind of beats on here that really can get carnivorous in the heat of the night if you listen to these properly, and that just kind of happens to be the thing there. And then in terms of the future, like JJ Demon dropped an album in 2023. So he's dropped this year already. There is some more stuff I'm going to check out. Apparently he dropped in I know he dropped in 2021. He might have dropped in 2022, but there is starting to be more stuff that's kind of about. And this is about one of the ones. I'm not sure if he dropped anything in 2013 and 2014, like I said, because there's not a bunch of information, but I am going to try to review more of these as I find them.